What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the future of Silent Hill. And I guess what's funny, just in the beginning of this video, I was planning on doing this, big franchise, a franchise that I love and have continued to get more and more into. And so I was going to do this, once Silent Hill F was out. But we actually got a little bit of news in terms of what are they strapped to something or are they not? And we're going to go over kind of that quote as this video goes. But Silent Hill F obviously is out. Made the video of it selling 1 million units, I believe, in 24 hours. Outselling, at the time at least, Silent Hill 2 Remake. I'm happy for it. I actually really, really love that about it, that it's able to do that for no other reason than just, I want these franchises to be strong. I want them to be back as much as possible. And I really think it's hard to argue. I mean, obviously Silent Hill F has its critics, but I think it's hard to argue the franchise isn't back, right? I really think Silent Hill is back, probably stronger than ever. I've talked about Silent Hill 2 Remake and Silent Hill F. If they sell 2, 3, 4 million units each, which, maybe that's a stretch, but maybe it's not. Honestly, I feel like they'll easily reach 2 or 3 million. That would be combined, right? That would be maybe close to half the units of the entire franchise up until this point. So the last 2 games in just 12 months potentially can sell, a quarter to a half of the entire franchise over 25 plus years. So I don't really know how you would argue Silent Hill isn't back just based off those metrics alone. Obviously, people are buying it, and they're buying it at a higher rate than ever before. All right, so where do we go from here, right? Do we stick with the formula of Silent Hill F? And that's, I think, a big discussion point. And then, of course, to knock out, Townfall and Silent Hill 1 Remake / other things like that, let me just kind of riff on those really fast. So Townfall, obviously still in development, very quiet. You imagine, I don't want to guarantee it, but you would think that game is next, right? That was, you go back to that very first, the infamous, maybe infamous in a good way, Silent Hill Transmission, right? We got I think at that time it wasn't even a trilogy, because I think it was 4 games at the time, and 3 of them are out, I believe, and that's the last one, right? So, and it's fun actually to go back to the teaser trailer for Silent Hill F, by the way, but, so we got that game, and I'm looking forward to it. And what I want to say about Townfall and the way that game is, I would suggest, okay, when we talk about the future, what do I want from the future of Silent Hill, I would like more tries at, and granted, we don't have it yet, okay? The game's not out yet, so I guess I'm not going to ask for literally it again, because if it sucks, I definitely don't want that again. But, we got the short message, and I actually was a bigger fan of that game than most. Probably 90% of people hated it more than me. But, you had a game like that. You had, I think it was Ascension, I forget the name, Ascension, that episodic one, completely bombed. I think that would be fair to say, right? But I want them to keep trying with that stuff. I think the more you try, you're eventually going to have hits, and hopefully Townfall can be that hit. You don't know 100% for sure, but if you don't consider short message good, which is okay, you've had 2 kind of experimental small Silent Hill games, and say they've both failed, okay? Well, you're going to have a third one, and then do you keep doing it? I think you do. I think you release 5, 6, 7 of these games, and you pray and you cross your fingers that 1 or 2 are extremely good. I think that's just kind of what you get with them, by the way. You kind of push that creativity, because to be fair, they are all trying their own thing. And I think in the future, when you're going out to people, you're still probably leading with that, right? You're saying, hey, I want just a different kind of Silent Hill thing, and I want it to be 5 hours long. I want it to be $20. I want it to be a free thing. I want it to be, another episodic thing. I want just something that's different, and go. Just show me your pitch and go with it. And naturally, I think you're going to have some that work. It goes back to the Star Wars days of the mid-2000s. You had some garbage Star Wars games, but you had some of the greatest Star Wars games of all time, because there was creativity in that era. Now, again, you've only had 2 Silent Hill games try it in that way, and they've technically both failed, perhaps. But, maybe the third one works. Maybe you try 2 more, and one of those 2 works. I think that's an okay strategy. you might just have to be a little bit more careful, I think, when you're picking studios to do it. So, okay, you have that kind of experimental, small version thing. Well, what else can you do? Well, obviously remakes, and remakes, we've also kind of have a check mark that, well, they're doing Silent Hill 1 or Bloober Team is. So there's not too much to say there. In fact, I just made a video on that yesterday. Keep on keeping on, get that thing out in 2 or 3 years. And, I think you can still have a steady stream. You look really at Resident Evil is the blueprint here, I feel like, right? Survival horror, even aside, to be honest with you. But, I mean, okay, it's so closely related and it's in the same genre. And there's enough Silent Hill games that even if you pick some of the weaker ones by Metacritic score or even fan opinion, right? Maybe you tinker with them. Maybe you mess with them a little bit. But you definitely have enough Silent Hill games where you could release a remake every 2 to 4 years. Like, there's no excuse. You started at 2. Now you're going back to 1. You still got 3 and 4. You still got, like Downpour and stuff like that. Like, kind of go crazy. So I would recommend that, I would push for that if I was in charge over there. But which is what they're doing. Pick the numbered entries, do it every 3 to 4 years, and kind of have that stream of keeping those old games alive, right? Resident Evil did it. There's a lot of games just in general, but I mean, in that kind of genre, Resident Evil, again, is the blueprint there, right? And then, okay, well, what do you do with the future of just, like mainline or main installment Silent Hill games? Well, there's a couple quotes that were going around that basically boil down to that they are not going to put people in, say, a bubble of Silent Hill F. So, like, the way that Silent Hill F is designed, that is not the blueprint going forward. That is not a restricted thing that the next main... And by the way, in the same quotes where they talk about, like, you're not restricted by F, right? Like, what F did, you do not have to do for the next one. I think somebody said, like, but we look forward to, like, talking about, like, the next one. So I feel like already, whether it's the same developers that did Silent Hill F or, in this case, by the way, I would also kind of go crazy. Like, maybe you stick with Bloober Team exclusively to do your remakes. Like, you don't maybe give a different Silent Hill game to a different studio to get remade. Maybe Bloober Team is just kind of that lockdown studio that's just good at that. But then I really think you should continue to jump around and kind of get that, again, like enthusiasm and creativeness. Look, Silent Hill F is not for everybody. It's not for every Silent Hill fan. It is divisive. Like, I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to sit here and tell you I like it because I do. I like that it's different. But I'm also not going to sit here and tell you that everybody liked it. Like, that's not fair. It's not fair to say that. There's definitely people that didn't like it. But I think... Number one, I kind of like that with a franchise like this, like kind of go crazy and jump around. And, there's some elements I think you kind of have to stick to make it a Silent Hill game. But beyond that, should we be limited to certain things? Maybe, maybe not. But jump around. So, in terms of developers, I would say, if you want to give it back to them and say, hey, make another Silent Hill, another brand new game, you could do that. But if I'm Konami, I wouldn't be afraid of getting other developers involved and trying somebody else, to do another mainline installment, because if you're not locked down with the way that Silent Hill F is, you don't need to be exclusively just with them. And by the way, to these comments of how divisive it is, I think you're actually seeing a lot of people celebrate those comments where it's like, oh, thank Jesus, Silent Hill F wasn't for me, but, by the way, I think actually they should get a lot of respect for that, because I think what's going to end up happening, and maybe the way that it could be received might be kind of back and forth, but I could see the next Silent Hill game being maybe more of a traditional feeling Silent Hill game, and then people kind of coming out saying, see, Silent Hill F freaking sucked and it didn't work, and they realized it. I hope that's not what they think behind the scenes at Konami. I'm really gonna defend it. I'm really gonna defend Silent Hill F. I'm sorry, but that's just what I believe and what I feel. I hope that's not true. I hope it really again stems from more of like just try different things versus Silent Hill F really alienated people. We gotta try like to completely reverse it, and we're never gonna try again. I feel like, and like I've said before, like say the combat, right? Silent Hill F's combat, like it didn't work out for me as well as I thought it did. I thought it was going to be much better than it was. I wasn't a fan. I don't think it was terrible, but I definitely don't think it was good. I would like them to change it and try something else, but I'm also not going to pin them down to say, well, just do Silent Hill 2's combat forever, right? Like because of the remake last year. Just do that forever. No, you should still experiment. The combat's still never really been all that good. Keep trying and keep messing around with it and find a combat that freaking works one day, and you shall. well, So, and that's kind of that's what I think really for the entire game. Like Silent Hill F again was split for a lot of people for a lot of reasons, even the way the storytelling or how it is a Silent Hill game, like the fog and all that jazz. And if you know the lore, I get that. I totally do. But still, don't be afraid to keep kind of experimenting. At least this is me. These are just my thoughts. You guys can let me know in the comments. But those are kind of like the three breakdown areas. Keep doing small experimental stuff, and you're gonna hit some. You're also gonna not, for sure. Keep doing remakes, keep those numbered titles, and even the later ones that don't have numbers, keep them going. And then for mainline installments, I guess also don't be afraid. That experimental type feel, keep it going. Again, don't maybe be like pinned down to one developer, but also don't be afraid of that experimentation. And I think, by the way, you have such a powerful thing there. Like, I know I was breaking it up, but add it all together. Like, this is why I think Silent Hill is back. I mean, you had some failures there, but again, like the sales, I think, kind of speak for themselves. You do all three of those things. You have these experimental, like one per year, one every other year. You have a remake every 2, 3, 4 years, probably 3 or 4, right? And then you have a new game every 3 or 4 years, and you kind of stagger them. So maybe you almost have a Silent Hill game once a year, but one's an experimental one that maybe half the people won't even play, right? Then you have a remake, then you have a brand new game, and then rinse and repeat. I think that's a blueprint for an incredibly strong franchise, and I think the other strong franchises that exist in the medium, they all do it too. Those are literally what they do. Maybe not so much the experimental stuff, and I think that's how Silent Hill can kind of, maybe differentiate itself. Is like, well, we allow this too, right? We can do these smaller things as well. But I think that's I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm saying if they do those things, I really think you got an incredibly strong franchise that is niche, has always been niche, and I think is breaking out a little bit more, but it's still generally neat. Like, look, you're never going to sell 10 million games in a Silent Hill game. That would be almost matching the entire franchise in one game. It's not going to happen. Resident Evil Requiem is going to almost outsell the entire Silent Hill franchise. That's how it works. It's what it is. It's not something to like freak out about. It's like, stay in your lane, do what you're doing, and expand just a little bit, here and there, and I think they're going to be good. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.